Eva is an LA-based content writer and writing coach. As a content writer, she writes for companies with marketing products, and as a writing coach, she teaches writers how to get clients and create steady income, which we love. So she's here to talk to you today about cold pitches, and we were just talking before this about how anybody, not just writers, will find this training useful. So if you're like, I don't know, I might not need this, like she made sure to make this relevant. And actually, funny enough, I went back through, because I was like, how did I actually meet you? And it was through Instagram, obviously, in October of 2020. And we were talking about cold pitches. So funny.
That's so funny. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it was actually hilarious because I went back and you had shared a post about basically about how like people make their cold pitches all about them. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you're talking about this. Thank you. And so now she's here to do a training, which I think is pretty cool. And so when it comes to her writing and perspective on cold pitching, the words that come to mind and why I wanted her to come on, simple, clear, researched, value-driven. Like there are no secrets here. And I feel like you don't overcomplicate things. It's very much like you're sending a pitch, just make sure it's value-driven, make sure it's about them. And I'm just really excited for you to bless us with all this cold pitching knowledge. So welcome, Eva. We're really happy to have you here, and I'll go ahead and let you take it away.
Awesome. So I'm going to share my screen here, and then I'll do the obligated, can everybody see my screen? Which just, you have to say it.
I can see it. It looks good to me. I think we lost your sound though.
Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Maybe when I present it loses the sound.
When you present, should be able to come back to the Discord without closing that and like make sure that your mic is adjusted the right way. See if that works.
I don't think so. I don't have a... Let me try one thing. Let me know if this works, okay?
Cool.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's just my external mic. So let me know if you have any questions or at some point you can't hear me or see me because all I see is my presentation now, but I can hear you, okay? So I'll stop and make sure.
Well.
Sorry?
We can see you as well.
Awesome. Awesome. So if we have any technical problems, just let me know and I'm happy to get them situated. So like Erin was saying, I'm really excited to hop on here with you all and just teach you this workshop on cold pitching because if there's anything that I believe can help you take ownership over the trajectory of your career and essentially life, it's going to be having a cold pitching skill set. Now, I look at cold pitching as a skill set because I believe it's something that you can bring with you into any facet of your life, where specifically we will talk about cold pitching today as it pertains to getting freelance work. I do want you to keep your mind open to the idea of how to ask people for things that you don't have a previous relationship with. So here's what I'm going to be teaching you today. I'm first going to get into the psychology behind cold pitching. This is really important to understand, and specifically, we'll be talking about the negative feedback loop and how to replace it with a positive feedback loop instead. After that, we'll get into the client acquisition system cold pitch framework, which is going to be made up of the 3 essential parts every cold pitch needs to have. I'll also teach you how to end every cold pitch. And then the second most important part of cold pitching that I see 90% of freelancers missing out on. After that, I'll give you a link to the Client Acquisition System Cold Pitch Framework worksheet. So this worksheet will help you go through and write cold pitches on your own. And that link will just be available for you. There's no opt-in, or you don't have to pay for it or anything. They'll just be at the very end of the workshop. So to get into it, my name is Ava Gutierrez. Erin gave me a pretty good introduction here. I'm a full-time freelance content writer, and I write for companies with marketing-related products. So think of companies who teach other marketers or teach businesses how to market. And then I also write for companies that have SaaS products, so things that help marketers do their job, for example, email platforms or something like that. I started my freelance writing career while traveling the world as a digital nomad, which I know a few of you here are as well. I started that in 2017, but in 2019, I realized that if I wanted to progress in my freelancing career, I needed to take a break from just moving constantly. I was in like a new country like every week or two, and it was just too much to try to also be working. So I decided I needed a home base, and that's how I landed in Los Angeles. Now, while I was traveling, I was using Upwork to land my writing clients. So I started with absolutely no network. I didn't know a single other person who was a freelancer, who had their own business. I just was like, all right, let me see how I can make money online as a writer. The first thing that came up was Upwork. I created a profile and I just started applying for jobs there. So I used Upwork to grow an empty writing portfolio. And this is where I started to learn how to send proposals that would actually get noticed. Now, the problem with Upwork and what I quickly realized is that you can have the best experience in comparison to the other applicants. You could read a job description and be like, this is for me. Like, I am the best person for this job. But if it already has like 10 plus proposals, the chances of even being opened are slim. So if you've ever hired a freelancer on Upwork, you'll start to see that it doesn't have anything really to do with their expertise or if they're the best writer for the job, in my case. What it was just whoever happened to send a message that was at the top of their inbox when that client hopped on and decided to hire for the job. So it was really, really difficult to try to get these jobs on Upwork. As it became more popular, I realized that I had a problem and I needed to figure out another way to bring on clients. Now, I probably sent 250 proposals on Upwork total in my time as a writer. This is not an exaggeration at all. There was a time where I sat on my computer all day long, like 7 days a week, just applying to jobs because I was traveling the world, my money was dwindling, and it was time to get very serious about starting to have a steady and predictable income. So based on what I had learned from cold pitching, I realized that I had the potential to reach out to clients on my own. So what I did was I cold pitched two of my like absolute dream clients. These were people who I had always looked up to. I had been following on social media for a really long time. I loved their products and who they were and what they stood for. I cold pitched one via email and one through a contact form, and I landed both jobs. So they both responded to me within the same day, and I had interviews with them like 3 days apart. And that's when I realized that I was onto something, because not only had I cold pitched to get the job, but I had created one out of thin air. None of these jobs were, or none of these clients, I should say, wanted to hire a writer at that time. But what I did was I showcased what I could bring, and suddenly they were interested in hiring a writer. So I used this framework for myself, and then I realized that I was pretty sure I could teach other writers how to do the same thing. So this cold pitch framework has been used by other content writers to land $98,000 in writing projects. Most importantly, these are retainer contracts, which gives the writers a steady and predictable income for themselves. So I've been able to help these writers quit their full-time jobs, have their first six-figure year, and then get to work with their own dream clients, which has been incredible. Now, the basis of cold pitching really comes down to psychology. So if I were to tell you that we were going to send out 10 cold pitches today in this workshop right now, it's going to create a certain feeling inside of you. So some of you might be like really excited and you're like, wait, that's so cool. I didn't know we were going to be doing that. This is amazing. Let's go. Others might be like a little scared. You're like, I don't know. Right now, it doesn't seem like a great time for me. You're starting to think of as any excuse you can to try and like get out of this workshop. Some of you might even be as far as like kind of feeling sick to your stomach and like, no, do not make me do that. I'm not interested. And some of you might be looking to be like, wait, what could I say to get out of this workshop right now? I got to get out of here. I don't want to do this cold pitch right now. So I see you, and we're going to fix this. So to fix this, you need to understand how your mind works. So your mind runs on feedback loops, and that's the only way that you are able to process the amount of information coming your way every single day. So what these feedback loops do is they tell you how to react to something so that you don't have to spend time thinking about how to react to it. So your feedback loop will remember past experiences. It'll memorize what it believes to be the best reaction to that experience, and then it will pull up that reaction whenever you're facing a specific situation again. So a really good example of this is to say, let's say that someone gives you a compliment. Chances are you have a feedback loop for how you react to getting complimented. So some of you might immediately just like disregard it and be like, oh, no, like that's not true. Like, thank you, but like, no, that's not me. Or, you know, you're too like embarrassed to take on that compliment, or you just don't know how to react. Now, others might immediately compliment the person back. So whatever they said to you, you're like, yeah, but you're that thing too. Like, you're amazing, you're incredible also, right? And then others might be able to just take the compliment and move on and say, wow, thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. And then continue moving forward with that conversation. So all of these reactions are just feedback loops based on how you have learned to handle somebody complimenting you. Now, there are two ways to classify feedback loops, either as negative or as positive. So a negative feedback loop creates a negative experience from a certain stimulus. If your reaction to me telling you that you had to send 10 cold pitches today was like, no, thank you, like I got to get out of this workshop somehow, suddenly, you know, I'm really busy, I got to go, you know, like trying to think of any excuse you can to get out of here, then you have a negative feedback loop for cold pitching. Now, when you look at the biological term for this, it's always negative feedback loop. But what we want to do is turn that negative feedback loop into a more positive one. But technically, it will still be called a negative feedback loop biologically. So here's what a negative feedback loop for cold pitching is going to look like. So this is me with my glasses on. I'm telling you, let's go. Let's cold pitch these 10 clients right now. This is your brain thinking, you know what? I'm definitely not good enough to pitch them yet. I think they're probably going to hate my pitch. It's better that I don't do this. They're never going to answer me. Cold pitching doesn't really work, or they're just going to be mad at me for contacting them. Who am I to just send this random email to someone I don't know? Now, this negative feedback loop creates an action from you. And this action is going to be you saying, well, you know what? I have other stuff to do. Like, I don't have time to send those cold pitches. Or just straight up, I don't have time for this and I'm leaving. Or you might even give me an excuse and say, I can't cold pitch until I have made the perfect website or created a better content strategy or have better social media content or published my newsletter or whatever the case is. There's always going to be an excuse that you will find if you have this negative perception of cold pitching. Now, we want to turn that negative feedback loop for cold pitching into a positive feedback loop. So a positive feedback loop creates that positive experience from a certain stimulus. So if your reaction to me telling you that you had to send 10 cold pitches today was, hell yes, I cannot wait to send these. I didn't realize this is what was going to happen in the workshop. This is so exciting. I'm even more excited for this than I was before. Then you have a positive feedback loop for cold pitching. Now, here's what that positive feedback loop is going to look like. So this is me again. Let's cold pitch 10 clients right now. This is your brain. You take that information in and your brain says, what an incredible opportunity could come from this, or this is going to be so fun, or wow, like I have butterflies right now. I cannot wait to do this. Or maybe you're thinking, wow, these people are going to love my cold pitch. I can't wait to send it out. The action that's created from these thoughts is going to be, what's the first step? Like, let's get this started. Let's go, Ava. Or it might be like, let me clear my calendar for the rest of the day so I can give this my full attention. Or it might just be, I am so freaking excited. Like, this is an amazing opportunity and I can't wait to go for it. So creating that positive feedback loop is going to require two things. First, it requires you to realize that you do have a negative feedback loop around cold pitching, and helps you to pay attention when you decide how you react to a certain stimuli. In this case, that is those cold pitches. So you're realizing, you know what? When she said that we're going to cold pitch, I was like, I kind of don't want to do this. That's what we need from you. I need you to realize that that's happening. Now, the second thing that we need is for you to get the results that you're hoping for. When you get the results and when you get that response, or when you are able to land a project from cold pitching, it's going to create that positive feedback loop in your mind where you get to say, well, last time it worked, so why wouldn't it work this time? Let me try it. So what I need you is to be in charge of that first part. I need you to recognize when you're kind of feeling down about cold pitching or you just think it's not working. What I'm going to do for you is give you a framework that helps you get that second part. It helps you get the result you're looking for, which is a response or hopefully a project. Now, with the psychology of cold pitching down, let's get into the client acquisition system cold pitch framework. So this framework is based on CAS, which is my mentorship program that teaches writers how to use cold pitching to turn the faucet on when they need clients and then off again when their schedule is full and they don't need to bring anybody else on. But what I've done is adapt this to show you how you can use this for any freelancing expertise. So let's start with the three most important parts of every cold pitch. You cannot leave these parts out. Make sure that you have them before you hit send, okay? Number one, show them you understand their business. So a good way to look at this is how many of you have ever gotten the spam call that tells you that your car's warranty has expired? I think I've gotten like 20 of these this year. I got one yesterday. And what I noticed with this call is how quickly I can hang up and say I'm not. Like, I know this doesn't involve me. Why? I don't own a car. Like, I live in Los Angeles. I don't need to own a car. When someone calls me about my car warranty, it's really easy for me to be like, yep, spammer, bye. So what this is doing is not paying attention to who I am and what my needs would be to be able to get my attention enough to say, oh, this spam call, maybe I'm going to fall for this, right? So the problem here is that too many freelancers are like this. They're like this spam caller when they cold pitch. They don't do their research to show that they know anything about the company that they're pitching. So let's say instead of this spam caller calling me about the warranty on my car, they called me about my MacBook Pro, which I'm on right now. And they say, you know what, because you've been writing so much on it, you're going to need a new keyboard in the very near future. That keyboard's going to cost you, for example, $750. Or if you get our $50 warranty, it will only cost you $25. Suddenly, I'm going to be really interested. Luckily, I'm going to use my smarts and not go into the spammer, but they will be able to keep me on the phone longer and will show me that they know what's going on and trick me into thinking, wait a second, this, they know, like, how did, they know what what my problem is going to be. And that makes me assume that they probably know what my solution should be too. So every great cold pitch is going to start out by showing the company you understand their business and that you're not just another bulk cold pitch spammer in their inbox. If you don't show them that you know their business, you act like that spammer that says, hey, your car warranty is up. And then I'm sitting here saying, I don't even have a car, disregarded. I'm not even going to answer this. So what you're going to do is just mention these 4 essentials of their business in the first part of your cold pitch. So you're going to mention their industry, you're going to mention their customer avatar, you're going to mention their product, and then you're going to mention their offer. So let's go over those really quickly. Industry is pretty obvious, but what industry are they in? So let's say that you are pitching an e-commerce coffee business. You're going to have an industry of e-commerce coffee industry. SaaS invoicing software is in the SaaS invoicing industry, and a coach to freelancers is in the freelancer coaching industry. Now, for their customer avatar, all you're asking is who is their ideal customer. Customer avatar is just marketing speak for the ideal person to buy their product. So to figure out exactly who this person is, you're just going to use testimonials on their website to narrow it down. You can also read their content and see who it's specifically targeted for, with the goal of being as specific as possible. So for example, for one of my clients, they are an education platform and we have a few customer avatars. So when we write content for them, what we're looking to do is not just say how to market 101, everything you need to know about it. We want to say how to become a freelance marketer. That's one of their customer avatars. Another is how to become a marketing agency owner. That's another one of their customer avatars. And then the third is how to market your business. That's their third customer avatar, business owners who want to take on the responsibility of marketing for themselves. So when you're looking for the customer avatar, get as specific as possible. The more specific, the better. Now you're going to talk about their product. Again, this one's going to be easy as well. What are they selling? Is it an e-commerce product? Is it a SaaS subscription? Or is it a membership subscription? The last thing you're going to talk about is an offer. And what you'll ask yourself is, what is their current offer? Now, this can be a little confusing between what is a product and what is an offer. A product is what they're selling physically or digitally, but an offer is what their current promotion is for that product. So for example, do they have a discount for their email list opt-ins? Are they giving new users a 7-day free trial? Or can you access exclusive content for $1 as a new member? Those are examples of offers, and you can see how those differ from the actual product itself. So here's what that could look like in your cold pitch, and feel free to adapt this as necessary. I'm going to go through this and say what I would say as a content writer and kind of just make it up as I go so that you can see what this would look like in the real world. So I would say, my name is Ava Gutierrez and I am a freelance content writer. I was on your website the other day and I found some article ideas that seem like they'd really resonate with your target audience that you could use on your blog. Since your audience is marketing agencies who are interested in learning more about marketing strategies, I think your blog would benefit from articles like these that promote your $1 exclusive content offer. So that's a little bit of what that could look like for you. And then obviously you can adapt that based on what you are doing as a freelancer. So that's part one. Now, after you've written that part one, we're going to go directly into giving them upfront value. This is part two. And what I want you to remember is that when you cold pitch companies, you want to talk about their company 80% of the time and your experience 20% of the time. We've already talked about their company a bit in part 1. You can see that that was a pretty solid paragraph, but we're still going to talk about it more before we mention anything about your experience. So our goal is to show them exactly what value we bring by working with them. This means that you're going to give them your really great ideas and paint the picture of what they'll get from working with you. So remember, when you're asking a company to bring you on, you're asking them to make an investment. They're going to pay you out of the hard-earned money that they have been making in their business. So let's reverse this for a bit and let's look at your business for a second. So out of these two VAs, which one would you hire? Number one, this VA emails you out of the blue. You don't know who they are. You know nothing about them. And they tell you that they are a VA. They tell you who they've worked with in the past, what tasks they did, and they ask if you're interested in hiring them. Then you have VA number 2. VA emails you, again, you've never heard of them, you don't know who they are, and they tell you that they see how much you're posting on social media and they can imagine how hard it is to keep a consistent schedule. They explain how they helped a similar business like yours streamline their social posting schedule. And then they give you 3 tips as to how you can start getting more organized with your posting today based on what you've been doing. So the question is, which one of these 2 people are you leaning towards hiring if you were interested in having that VA come on and help you out? So this is what VA2 said, and then we have VA1. So one of these is massively more impressive than the other, and that's going to be VA number 2, who came at it saying, here's what I can do for you, and really went into talking about what they can do for you 80% of the time, and then just kind of showcasing what they've done in the past a little bit so that you know that they're legit, right? So your value is whatever your deliverable is. For me, that's articles. So when I cold pitch companies, I will tell them what article ideas I believe would be great for them based, again, on their industry, their customer avatar, their product, and their offer. So I want to show them exactly what they're getting from hiring me and take out any hesitation they have about investing in having me come on to their team. So this value is really essential for getting the ball rolling in this relationship that you're trying to create. So in chemistry, this is called activation energy. And it's a really simple concept. It's just the minimum amount of energy needed to get compounds to have a reaction together. So in the case of cold pitching, you are one compound, the company you're cold pitching is another compound, and the reaction is the contract that you want them to sign. It's the work that you want to start doing for them. Now, to create that activation energy, we need to show them exactly what we can get started on right now. So the person you are cold pitching, they are busy. They have other things to do. They've got a whole list of tasks they have to get through. And it's your job as the person cold pitching to make it as easy as possible for them to see what it would be like to work with you. So you're a compound in this reaction, but you're also the one that needs to bring the activation energy. So for me as a content writer, I'm going to send a few article ideas, and I'll even send an outline for one of those articles in my cold pitch. So not only am I bringing in part 1, where I really show them that I know what they're doing, what they're selling, who they're selling it to, what offer they have right now in the industry that they're trying to compete in, I'm also making sure that I'm talking about how these articles help them with their current offer and how they will sell more products, always bringing it back to what their number one goal is most likely, which is how they're going to get more customers by investing in me. All right, now it's time to move on to that 20% of your cold pitch where you get to talk about you. So what we're going to do here is show why you are a great person to deliver the value that you mentioned in the previous section. And this section can be about like 3 to 6 sentences long. It does not need to be like 2 paragraphs unless you see a massive need for it. Since the person you're cold pitching is busy, you want to make it, again, as easy as possible for them to realize that you're the perfect person to hire for this job that you're also creating with your cold pitch. So this means that when you showcase your expertise, you are never, ever, 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 ever linking to just a website page or your entire portfolio. You are linking directly to the samples or case studies that are most relevant to what you want to do for their business. So here's some examples of here's an example of what to never say, and then here's what you should always say. So you never say, here's a link to my portfolio, because what this does is it sends them on this like wild goose chase to say, okay, cool, here's a link to their portfolio, but now I need to find the projects that are the most relevant to what I would be looking for. Now you just added another task to their to-do list, and you made them hiring you harder, which means you took away activation energy, and all we want to do is create more. So to create more of that activation energy and make it easier for us to have that reaction, which is essentially us just signing that contract and being able to work with them, we always want to say something like this. Now, again, I'm going to go through this as if I was cold pitching as a writer, so you can see what this would look like in real time, but this template is here for you to copy and paste and add in based on your freelancing expertise. So I would say, I've written articles like this in the past. Here are some samples similar to what we would be writing for your company. And then I would put a direct link, and link. And what I want to do is never just saying, here's the my author page on this website, on this certain publication or website, or here's my portfolio or anything like that. We're being so specific to say, well, you know what, since I am, for example, let's say in this cold pitch, I want to get hired by a marketing agency, I'm going to link the articles that make the most sense for a marketing agency so that they can say, wow, I have a really good idea of what it would be like if I worked with Ava, because now I can see exactly what articles I would get from her, because these are so similar to what we would be writing for our company. All right, now.
Before you move on, I just need to say that I love that so much. I talk a lot about how, when you are reaching out to people, to trying to find, I think I say barrier, lower the barrier to entry, or as many obstacles as you can, because especially cold pitching, you don't know the person or you don't have a relationship. And so any barrier at all, anything that makes it even a little bit difficult, is gonna, put you out. And I definitely linked to my portfolio, so I will not be doing that anymore.
Never do that again, Erin. I'm watching you now.
So this is great. I'll let you continue, but I just wanted to point that out. I think that's awesome and really important that you touched on that. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you like it. So now that we've gone through what we're going to do for them, we've shown our upfront value, and we've shown that expertise to say, hey, I am the person for this job, and made it as easy as possible for them to realize that. The question is, how do you end this pitch? How do you continue this conversation? So here's what we're never, ever going to end with. We're never going to end with, let me know if you're interested, I'll look out for your response, or thanks for your time. Notice how all of these are sentences. They end with a period, and they don't move the conversation forward. What we want to do is always end with a question. So questions can be, I could have the first deliverable to you by month and date. Does that work for you? I see that you're testing out different offers. Would deliverables that promote an upcoming offer work better for you? Or are you the best person to talk to about this? Or is there somebody else I could connect with? These are just examples, and you can certainly find different ways to end on a question and continue to move that conversation forward. But just remember, you never want to end with something that just kind of ends it to say, let me know if you're interested, and then it doesn't keep that conversation moving forward. Feel free to copy and paste these right into your pitches, okay? And lastly, the second most important part of cold pitching, aside from the actual pitch itself, it's your follow-up strategy. So your cold pitch is only as good as your follow-up strategy, and you need to keep that in mind. So repeat it over and over again to yourself that you must be following up after you send cold pitches. So now this is the third time that I've said this, and there's a reason it's in here 3 times. The person you cold pitched is busy. They might read your pitch, know they need to prioritize something else first, and then just forget to respond. How many times have you opened an email or opened a text message from your friend and forgot to respond? And you're like, you know what, I'll just respond in a few hours. And then they message you again, and you're like, wow, I did not realize that I did not even message you back. This happens all the time. So they might even read your pitch and just not be able to send it to the right person right away because they're in the middle of a huge project with them, and just sending it right now would like take them off of the rails, and it's like, no, we need to focus on this. Or they might read your pitch and just be like, I need to think about this. Let me come back to it later. And then again, they just forget. So this is where that negative feedback loop loves to creep back in. So this is you sent out your cold pitch, you were feeling so good about it when you sent it out, and now it's been 3 days and you're like, I haven't gotten a response to my pitch in 3 days. So your brain decides to say, you know, I should have known they'd never respond. I don't even know why I sent it. My ideas must have sucked. I bet they hated them. Or my personal favorite, cold pitching doesn't work. I will never try this again. This is just not a thing. It doesn't work for me. This creates the action in you to say, you know what, I'm just going back to Upwork, or cold pitching doesn't work. I'm giving up on this strategy. I'm not cold pitching again. Or worst case scenario is saying, I have to look for another job outside of this freelancing expertise because this just doesn't work for me. This isn't viable. It's not possible for me to do this. What we want to do, turn that negative feedback loop into a positive one. So again, I haven't gotten a response to my pitch in 3 days. What can happen inside of your brain? How about saying they must be really busy right now? Or maybe I sent it to the wrong email address and they never got it. Or should I try to send my pitch to someone else at the company that could be? This creates action of I'm going to follow up. Or let me see if I can find a social profile to DM and ask them if they got my pitch and if there's a better email address to send it to. Or else would be a good fit to send my pitch to. This is where the importance of those feedback loops come in, because they can determine how hard you go toward if you go into that positive feedback loop where you're like, oh, wow, they haven't responded in 3 days. What can I do to get a response? That's when you're going to start to see that cold pitching magic. And that's the importance of having that follow-up strategy. So again, you just have no idea what's going on in their business, and you cannot ever assume that they're not answering because of you. Their business might be on fire on the inside. On or hiring someone, they can't even respond right now. It's like too crazy. That's why cold pitching, number one, is a numbers game. If you want one client, you should not be sending out one cold pitch because you don't even know if they're ready to hire someone. Now it's a numbers game, and that's why following up is always a requirement. And I want you to always be watching that feedback loop in your mind to make sure to be sending out those follow-ups instead of just thinking, you know what, this doesn't work, and I'll never be able to get someone from cold pitching. It is not true. I'm watching writers every single day be able to get these insane responses from huge companies just by reaching out with a cold pitch that follows this framework. So, as much as I wish that I could give you just a proven cold pitching template like I can with the writers in the client acquisition system, I can't create one that just fits all freelancing expertises that you would be able to just copy and paste and send out. But what I can give you is this worksheet. So you can go through, you'll answer the questions to figure out how to write the right cold pitch, and that will help you increase your response rate and create the activation energy that leads to landing projects. So I'll put this link in Discord after the workshop as well, but it's here for you. It's bit.ly/CAS cold pitch framework. This is a Notion page, so all you have to do is just make a copy of the template, and it's yours to use forever, really. So if you're a freelance content writer and you want to turn the faucet on when you need clients and then off when you are just booked, busy, and set, you can join the waitlist for the client acquisition system at ava-gutierrez.com/CAS. And inside CAS is when I'll give you that proven CAS cold pitch template that has landed the writers $98K in retainer writing contracts. Retainer, very important here because we want to create that steady and predictable income. And it's been able to help them create that so they can go full-time freelance and hit their 6-figure per year goal. So inside CAS, I'll of course also be giving you my follow-up strategy, which comes with 8 templates that you can just copy and paste directly to your clients that you're cold pitching, designed to make you look so good as a writer so that you're building your personal brand as you're reaching out to these clients and they just are like, wow, this person took the time to really care about what my business is, what we're doing, what we're offering, and what we're trying to do here. So if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I'm going to pop out of the presentation so that I can see you now.
That was so lovely.
There you are.
I'm like, I'm here.
All I saw was the presentation, so I was like, oh, I missed their faces.
Yes. So I know
that was helpful.
Yes, that was amazing. I mean, for me especially as a writer, it's super awesome to have another writer come in because I know, at least for me, there's still more to learn. I mean, let's hope I don't know everything.
There always is. There always is.
Right. So it's really nice. And you touched on some really, really awesome points. But I do know that Michelle had questions that she asked in the Discord earlier. So Michelle, do you want to ask some of your questions? I have them here. I can just read them out unless you want to just kind of, chat with her.
I could read them out as well. Under questions, right? Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yes.
I found it. Oh my God, I asked too many questions.
I can't wait for them. I'm ready for it.
Okay. I think the big one for me, honestly, is, well, there's two. The main one for me is one, I always put myself, taking ownership here, into the friend zone. Always. And number two, completely different, but I personally hate unsolicited advice. So when people email me pitches like yours, I'm like, who are you to give me 3 tips? That's me needing to stop being so arrogant, but like also cognizant of that, I guess. So, yeah.
So I would say when it comes to feeling like, oh, I hate when people give me unsolicited advice, like they don't even know what's going on, right? Like, who are they to tell you, right? Which is your initial reaction. That is why part 1 is so important. Because as soon as you say, hey, I've done a deep dive to understand like what your industry is, who your customer avatar is, what your product is, and what offer that you have right now, that's when it changes the conversation to thanks for this like random advice on what I should do for my business, towards them being like, oh, that makes perfect sense. You're right. We should do that. That would be amazing if we could do this because, as you said, this does help us with promoting our offer more and being able to get more customers that are specific to this avatar in this industry. And so we can sell more of these products. So that's the importance of part one there. I totally get what you say when you say that unsolicited advice, because my inbox, I have my email in places on the internet and people are just scraping it and sending me tons of cold pitches, and they will just be like, I think that you should start a podcast. Here's what like you can do with our program. And I'm like, maybe having a podcast is a great idea, but like you haven't looked to see actually how this helps me. So adding in to showcase that you have done that research is a very, very important part. And that's why you open your cold pitch with it.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And the other one was about the friend zone.
The friend zone. What do you mean by the friend zone?
I guess like I'm not personally very good at like I position myself as an authority in like how I speak, and then I like the idea of money has just always kind of like been icky to me, and like I naturally will just like gravitate to helping to work for free, and then the money part kind of comes after, I guess. And then I feel bad because I'm like, well, I do want to help this person, and then I just get stuck in like a let's be friends instead of client friends.
Absolutely. So this is really common, and it's I see it all the time when the freelancers and casts, they'll get that response, and it's awesome because they'll be like, oh my God, I got a response. Like, I can't, like, this is amazing. And then they're like, oh, wait, what do I say? Right? They're like, oh my God, I have to say something. And like, how do I move this towards them actually hiring me? How do I not mess this up now? Right? And that's a huge part of the program is me being there and coaching one-on-one to say, let's say this, to move them towards this reaction, right? When it comes to that activation energy, what are we moving them towards? So when you feel like you're starting to friend zone yourself, what I want you to do instead is when you send your cold pitch out, I want you to read their response. And then a lot of the time it will be like, how do you see this working? Or can we get on a call to just talk a little further? Or can you give me more information, right, on how this would work? And that's when you can immediately hop into saying, well, here's how I work with my clients. For example, for me, I would say something like, I work in a minimum of 6 articles per month with every client. And what that helps us do is to ensure that you have a network of content working together to be able to bring your leads and turn them into customers. And what that helps is to move that conversation towards being able to talk about money later. Now, you don't have to talk about it in that first response, but you want to move it towards saying, hey, this is how this is going to work. This is my package. Here's what you're going to get. Here's why it pertains to you. And here's how it's going to help you get that return on investment that you're putting into me. So move the conversation that way. And what's going to happen is that naturally, the only way to progress is for them to say, okay, that's awesome. We're interested. How much would that cost? And that's when you can easily say, well, my package is this much per month or this much per deliverable, or however you want to do that. And that will help you get out of the friend zone.
That's nice. I feel like a lot of people are always like, just get over it. And I'm like, well, if it's not me to naturally talk about money at the start, then I don't feel like I should do that. So that I like that. So thanks.
Absolutely. And something that I always remind freelancers is that money can be really stressful, and it can be really scary when you're like, all right, like what am I going to tell them? How much is my rate? What should I do? Like, how should I go about this? But it's just a conversation at the end of the day. So the same way that when you go to, let's say you go to a restaurant and you want to order some pasta, but it has like mushrooms in it. And you're like, I don't like mushrooms. I don't really want them in there. The same way that you ask that waiter, you're like, hey, do you mind if you don't put those mushrooms in there? Is that possible? That's the same energy to try to bring to these negotiations when it comes to money. It's just a conversation of saying, that's awesome, I can do it for this price. Now, if they come back and they're like, that's out of our budget, unfortunately, like we can't do that. Again, it's just a conversation where you can say, what can you do? Are you able to do this? Are you able to have me take off 2 of those deliverables? Would that help you out? And being able to take away the stress of that conversation, like the ickiness that you feel of being like, oh, like I hate going back and forth, or like this is so awkward. Just bring in like that same idea of just you're asking the waiter, can I take those mushrooms out? And sometimes they're like, everything's pre-made, like we can't. And then what do you say? You're like, okay, I guess I'll get another meal, or you know what, I'm fine with them. Or they're like, yeah, we can take them out. And you're like, oh, that's great, I can't wait, right? So either they can work with you and they're like, that budget works totally, or they're like, we can't make that work. And that's when you get to just remember, it's a conversation that you can just say, what does work for you? Did you have any other questions, or was it just those 2?
There was another one, but I don't even. Oh, it was about outsourcing. I'm not going to be outsourcing myself anymore. So
Okay.
any more than
I was
do
ready
anyway.
for like 15 questions. I was like, let's go. I can't wait. Those were easy.
Yeah, I'm looking at. I don't think anyone else had any other questions, but I'm actually looking through my own inbox, and I have like three people right now that I have left unread for nearly a month. Whoops.
There you go.
Because it's like random. So it's actually really interesting because I'm like reading them and like they like almost nail it, but they don't go back to that first part where they talk about the first part of what you were talking about with like the audience, and they're not really like tying. They're almost like, I saw your blog and wow, they're like freelancer, digital nomad. They're like throwing these things out, and then was talking about they talk about little ones, like working at home with little ones, and I don't have kids, and I don't have kids ever. Like, so it's just really interesting that they're like, oh, like this because it works for them, but it doesn't work for me, and so here I am talking about how bad their cold pitch is and not answering them a month later. So it's interesting. I'm like, I can see exactly where people are going wrong, and like where in the message I'm like, yeah, you didn't really do your research. Like you kind of did, but you really didn't. And maybe
absolutely.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's kind of, Michelle, like what's happening when like you see these people and you're like, how, like they want to help me and they want to give me 3 tips, but like how do they know me? Maybe it's because you're getting bad cold pitches and people are not actually like, hey, like I can help you with, I mean, whatever, like Kartra stuff, I don't know if that has anything, if that would be helpful at all, because you literally do that, but like whatever.
No.
But yeah, it's really interesting.
It is. And once you start to see this, you'll like, if you get cold pitches, like you can just see it. You're like, you almost nailed this, but you missed it. Like this one aspect where I don't have kids, right? Or I'll get cold pitches that are like, hey, can you publish one of our blogs on your website? It's for parents working at home with kids. And I'm like, what does that have to do with anything that I talk about? Obviously, you just copy and pasted this to 1 million people. And that's what we want to do with the cold pitch, is to showcase that we did not copy and paste this, right? Yes, we use templates, but the template is very specific per client. And you're really doing your research to say, all right, I know what I can bring to the table for them and why this is worth it for them in the end. One of my favorite responses in CAS will be like these big brands who will be like, I usually never respond to cold pitches, but this one I couldn't look over, or this one I couldn't ignore, or this was so good, I had to respond, because that's the validation I need to say, I have figured this out. And this is able to showcase that this is not just another like spam cold pitch. This is something that people genuinely can read and say, wow, this person took the time to actually care about this. And what I want to do with those pitches for the writers and with you guys using this framework is to build out your personal brand too, because I want you to look really good when you cold pitch and you start to essentially network and open more doors for yourself. So using a really good cold pitch just helps people get to know who you are in a way where they're not like, oh my God, this is the worst pitch ever, goodbye. They're like, this is so good that even if they don't want to hire you now, you're always in the back of their mind to be like, you know what, when my business isn't on fire or when we have a bigger budget or we have more time, this is the person I want to hire.
That's very beautiful. And I do have one question about follow-ups, because I guess you kind of hear like follow up after 2 days, and then after like 3 days, and then like the third follow up is like a week later, and then like you stop. Do you kind of have any and let me know if this is kind of encroaching into your client acquisition system, because I know you teach on this, but like what is there like a formula for follow-ups? Do you typically, is it like per industry? Kind of what are your thoughts?
So what I do is just I follow a 4 follow-up approach, and this is what I teach inside CAS is you're sending 4 follow-ups out. You're going to send them out on day 3, day 7, day 10, and then day 14. And then it's up to the writer if they want to continue. So sometimes it will be like such a dream job that they're like, I just want to keep knocking on this door. Other times they're like, you know what, it's fine. Like, I understand. I'll circle back later. Or, you know what, this other opportunity came up, so I don't even need this anymore. So what we'll do is do those 4 follow-ups. And then what I want to always make sure they're doing is following up on 2 different platforms. So you're going to follow up on email for 2 of those. And for the other 2, find like some type of social platform that they have and DM them and say, hey, I reached out, did I send this to the right email? Who would be the best person to talk to? Something like that. So that just in case that email didn't go through, or like they get a ton of spam in their inbox and it's hard for them to get through it, use that 2 platform approach to be able to say, hey, I sent this over, and I see writers get responses that are like, oh my gosh, I didn't even see that. Can you send it to this other email address instead?
Yes. Oh, hi, Chelsea. Oh, okay.
So
Party now over here.
I know. Yeah, so I actually did want to say something about when you are DMing someone. I did that before, and I basically, because I sent it was just one email, and then I reached out over DM, and I said what you said, where it was like, was it the right email? Which is so much better than just going in there and being like, did you get my email? Did you get like, if you ask like, did I send that to the right person? The conversation just shifts, and the person, because it's a question rather than like, did you get my email, which is very naggy. And I always got responses from that. It's like, I am like remembering that now. It was so that was a great tip there.
It's again, with your cold pitch, you always want to end on a question, but with your follow-ups as well. So you don't want to follow up and say, let me know if you got it. You want to say, did I send this to the right email? Is there a better person for me to send this to? Always end with that question to do your best to be able to move the conversation forward.
Chelsea is our other co-host, and she's
Hi, Chelsea. Nice to meet you.
Sorry, I've had every tech issue in the world this morning.
We all have those days.
You wouldn't believe. I don't know what's going on. I'm in my new office now, so I've got like a second screen and everything set up, and I haven't figured out all the logistics yet.
Oh, Nick will let you know all about this.
I finally got it working.
2 screens is where it is at. I just started this year with 2 screens, and I'm scared now. I used to be a digital nomad. I was like, put my laptop in my backpack, let's go. I can work from anywhere. Now I'm like, can I just work from anywhere? Like, this isn't good, you know? I'm not the minimalist I once was.
Yeah.
I use my iPad as a second screen and my laptop, and it works. It works on picnic tables and around.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, I know Nick is trying to do that because he's doing video editing and things like that. But we haven't found. Our RV is pretty small, so I'm not sure where we're going to put a second screen, but we'll figure it out.
Gotta get creative.
My other tip is a projector. I used to do that in my old apartment, or a TV, like Chromecast or something, to connect to it. Anyways,
That's a good one. Does anyone have any other questions? Chelsea, do you have questions about cold pitching?
I will definitely go back and rewatch everything. I'm so sorry I'm late. I don't want to throw in questions at the end. I've literally been on, like, up since 6:30 my time trying to sort this out because I tried last night and I was just like, no, I can't do it. No skills.
Well, I do want to say that if anybody does have any questions in the future, that you can just DM me on Instagram or Twitter, which is just the Ava Gutierrez, and I'm more than happy to answer your questions. Just let me know that you're from the SSI, and I can definitely help you out with as much as I can via DM.
And I know you said that you had a little bit of promotion to do. Did you want to go ahead and promote anything else? I know you talked about your client acquisition system, but you're welcome to get your like little pitch in at the end right now.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So the only thing that I really have to talk with you about is the client acquisition system, which is that system for content writers right now, maybe in the future for all freelancers, but for now it's just focused on content writers and showing you how to use cold pitching to be able to turn that faucet on when you need clients and then off as soon as your schedule is full and you're all set with them. So my goal is to be able to show these writers how they're able to take that ownership of their trajectory of that future so that I can help them to be able to never have to stress again in the future. Let's say if one of their clients has to stop working with them or there is a global pandemic and they lose a lot of work at once, they can always have that confidence to say, I know exactly how to find more work for myself. And we can avoid that like freak out and that nervousness that can come with freelancing and not having the stability of a 9-to-5 using cold pitching. So if you are a content writer or if you know any content writers, feel free to send them my way, either to my socials, which is the Ava Gutierrez, or right over to the CAS website page, which is just ava-gutierrez.com/CAS. And they can take a look through and see if it aligns with their goals. And then we can talk further from there for sure.
Ava, thank you so much. This was, I mean, seriously, this is so perfect. I know everybody here could definitely use some help with cold pitching. There's always going to be a lull with clients, so it's always nice to know that you kind of have the power to find new ones. That's really the struggle when you work for yourself, right?
Exactly. And like I said at the start, cold pitching is a framework for finding more work as a freelancer, but the more that you use it, the more you'll notice how you're able to adapt it to different parts of your life, not just in business, and to be able to ask the right questions or get the responses that you're looking for by being able to provide that upfront value and be able to show people the value of working with you in any way.
Thank you so much. This was so lovely. And you mentioned something about a worksheet. I think it was like a Bitly link. So you have access to all of the channels. If you want to post that in the assignments channel, that would be totally great. And everyone will have access to that.
Awesome. I love it. I'm giving you all an assignment with this.
I'm excited to use it.
We love
Put
assignments.
that link right in there for you, and I'll put some instructions as well so you know what to do with it if you're not familiar with Notion. Okay?
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll do that right now. All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
So nice to meet you all.
You okay?
I just burned myself.